Good morning, everyone. I welcome all of you to our UI and UX short course. The course is actually consists of 4 weeks, and in the fourth week, I will give you an assignment which you have to submit in the fifth week. So let me share my screen. Before that, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Savinder Rukshan. I work as a UI and UX designer and product designer for more than 10 years now. Uh, so I worked at WSO2 and right now I have my own company. So I would like to introduce like everyone to introduce yourselves. Tell me what is your name and what is the if you are working, what is the position or a company, and if you are a student, tell me you're a student and tell me why you sign up for this particular UX design course, and we can start off our session after that. So let's start with someone. Achinta.
Hi, good morning. I'm Achinta. Actually, I'm a newcomer to this field. Currently, I'm engaged with textile industry. Currently, I'm working as a senior executive in shipping management and logistics.
Yeah.
So this is kind of new to me, and from a long time ago, I wanted to become a UI and UX engineer. So just now, I'm trying this field.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Hashini.
Hello, I am Hashini Madhumali. I am doing HND IT now, undergraduate student.
Yeah.
I like to learn UX UI designing. I am not working now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Rismin.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I am Rifad. I'm working as a graphic designer right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why this course?
I want to pursue my career in UI UX designing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about Nadika?
Hi, good morning. I'm Nadika Fernando. I'm working as a ICT teacher, and I completed my degree in computer science. The reason why I chose the course is I want to learn something like new and maybe do UI UX as a part-time career. Like I'm interested in that.
Okay. Thank you. How about Nadisha?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Nadisha Samarakon. So I'm currently working as a senior HR executive. So I'm into HR. I wanted to learn a new skill, so I chose this UX UI as a new skill. That's why I'm doing this.
Okay. Thank you. How about Natania? Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Let me know. Hello. Introduce yourself and tell me why you. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it is kind of breaking up, but you can continue talking. If your connection is not that good, you can send a message on Zoom chat.
So good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Natania. I just finished my OS this year and I'm currently commencing my foundation year in graphic design.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for your introduction. So let's
Right, fine. Okay.
so let me first share you the course content. So as I mentioned, this course is actually we have curriculum for 4 weeks, and the fifth week I will in the fourth week, end of the fourth week, I will give you an assignment, which is a capstone project. you have to do your own design by applying the things you learned in the course during coming 4 weeks. So in the first session, we are going to talk about, do an introduction to UI and UX. And also I'm going to talk about what is UI and UX and UX job roles and the industry, and also essential skills and technical skills you require to become a UI and UX designer, and then how to improve as well, how to think like a UX designer, and finally what creating a UX portfolio and what is a portfolio and how you can create one. And then in the second week we are going to talk about UX process. First, introduction to UX process and methods, practical application of UX design process, and then design thinking techniques. So design thinking, it is actually a part of a UX process we will talk about in detail in next week probably. And then user research and user interviews, creating user personas, creating paper wireframes, introduction to UI design tools and design testing. So most of these words, if you are not familiar with them, please try to Google it and understand for now, but I will cover them next week as well. So in the final week, UI design with Figma. Figma is a design tool which is using widely these days in the industry. So it is a web-based and also they have a desktop application. So Figma is the design tool we are using in this course as well. So in the third week, I will introduce you to Figma and then Figma design essentials, industrial Figma design techniques, where we talk about design principles that we follow. There are several principles like atomic design and how to create design systems, branding guidelines, and so on. And design presentation techniques, where we can create clickable prototypes. So those are practical part of the our course. And in the final session, we are going to talk about how to become a successful UI and UX designer or an engineer. So UI and UX designer and engineer, I will tell you the difference between those things, but basically UI and UX designer is something that you can start your career with, but with the experience about design architecture and information architecture, data flow and user interviews and everything come into place. So if you have experience, you can become a UX engineer. It is actually comes with the experience. Design rules, principles, practices, and tips for great UI design. How to get your first UX design job. And finally, 20 tips for success in your first UX design job. So this is our Google Classroom. So I will add all the slides and all the extra resources here so you can follow up and learn when you have time. So let's open the presentation for today. Okay, today we are going to do the introduction. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the course content for 5 weeks. Introduction, UX process, UI design using Figma, practical part, and finally give you some tips after you finish the assignment. Okay, today we are going to first discuss what is UI and UX and job industry and technical skills and essential skills, and how to think like a UX designer, and what is a portfolio and how to build one. So by referring to introductions given by you, I assume that most of you don't have much experience in UX design. So I assume that you don't have a portfolio as well. So I will give you details about how to create a portfolio and what are the platforms we can use, what are the free available platforms in the end of the session. So, okay, let's start with the what is UX? UX stands for user experience, and it is how people interact with the product. So if you take this product, it is a physical product, and how the users can easily open this particular bag of chips and do their end task, like eat it quickly as possible. So that is also a user experience. But this is a physical object. But if you take a digital space, let's say you have a banking application, your end goal is to send money to someone. So the user experience designer has to consider how easily this person can send money to someone else. So he have to streamline the user flow by thinking about different user scenarios. Let's say, for an example, one user want to send money to one of his relatives or friend. So that user has a different user flow. User flow is something that user follows uh, from the point they start your app and in, at the end want to achieve their end goal. So that is the whole process, the flow. So a person who want to send money, he will sign into your banking account, banking application, and then he select particular bank or account and add details and enter the amount. Let's say 5,000 or something, and they finally click the send button. So that is the user flow for the person who want to send money to someone else. But let's say another person want to pay a bill, let's say a mobile bill or something. So that user flow is a little different. So he will sign into account that is same with the previous user flow, but he will then select the telecommunication or a utility provider uh, from the menu and then add his account details and enter the amount he want to pay and finally pay the amount. So the user flows are different. We will talk about user flows in details in our next sessions. So this is user experience. User experience is how people interact with the product. It can be a physical or a digital product. What is UX? The process of enhancing the user satisfaction with the product by improving the usability, accessibility, and pleasure. So the usability is how easily you can use this particular application, how easily you can achieve your tasks. In the banking application, how easily you can send money to someone else. In the mobile bill payment application, how easily you can pay your mobile bill. And in this particular scenario, how easily you can open this bag of chips and eat it. So that it is different based on the product that you are interacting with. And accessibility is something really important as well. So as you know that when you are launching a product, when you are interacting with an application, uh, let's say you are designing an application for a fitness industry or something healthcare industry. So the users that will use your application, you can't tell that even though you have done your research on target users, even though you have like some details about your target users, you can't exactly say that this user will behave in this particular way. So users will do different things in their applications. So one user will follow the same flow that you design, but other user will go here and there and come back, and they might have different user flows. And also in accessibility, we consider the users with different impairment. Let's say one person has visual impairment. They can't see particular colors. Or some people have visual impairment that they can't see your screens at all. And some people might have motor impairment, so they can't interact with your screens with using hands or mouse clicks or anything. So for that purpose, so the your application should provide these people guidance. For example, let's say the visual impairment people, they have screen readers in their systems, in their mobile phones or their laptops or anything. So you have to give the understandable content where they can use their screen reader and understand what is happening in the user interface. So that is also one thing you have to consider. And the people with motor impairment, you have to give them in Google, they have like speech to text, and also you can give commands, like you can switch on your microphone and give command, Google Assistant, Siri, uh, Bitsby, and so on. Those are good use cases for accessibility for the people who don't have good motor, people with motor impairments, I'm sorry. And then pleasure. So the end goal after you adding the consider the usability and accessibility and everything, if your design, if your experience, if your user experience can provide users some pleasure, so they will remember that that particular uh, experience they get from your application. Let's say your application is buggy and it is very slow. So the users have that in their memory. So next time they are coming to your system, they expect the same thing. So most of those users won't come back. They will go to different competitor. They will delete your application, or they won't visit your website. They won't use your service because of that particular reason. So you have to make sure you give what users expecting from your system and something more, which we call pleasure in here. So provided in the interaction with the product. So all these things you have to consider when you are designing something for your users. It can be a physical product or a digital product. So in here we have usability, accessibility, and pleasure. So I'm going to talk about usability in detail. Actually, usability consists of these few criterias as well. It has to be learnable and efficiency and memorability and errors and satisfaction. So usability is a quality attribute that assesses how easy user interfaces are to use. So learnability is, let's say, I will talk about in detail in the next slide, but for a rough introduction, I can say, let's say the same example, the banking application where you want to send money to someone else. So the learning curve for that will be, so when the user sign up or sign in for that particular application, so he can see the screen instructions, I'm sorry. They can click on a particular button and send money to someone. So the next time he come to your application, he has that in his memory. So he had learned the user flow of your application. So you also have to make sure that most of the users are not uh, familiar with new user flows. So let's say this person is interacting with different banking application as well, or some money applications such as PayPal, Wise, or anything. So they have some expectations. They have some user flows in their memory. So you have to make sure you do your competitor analysis, which is another process in UX. So you have to study about your competitors, how the user flow, how they optimize their user flow, and you have to take those good things and add those to your application as well. So if you are not following all these guidelines and all the user flows that other people's also following, people won't like your product. So they have to learn something new. So most of us don't like to learn something new, particularly when we are using an application for a short task. So you have to make sure your user flows and uh, process are simplified and streamlined, and they don't have to learn much in their process. And efficiency is something really important. So when you are doing a transaction or anything, it has to be efficient. Efficiency can be measured by the speed and the feedback, like when you get feedback from your computer or a screen, it will give you messages such as a transaction successful or failed, what are the errors you made, how we can correct errors. So those messages should give to your users promptly, and it has to be fast as well. And memorability is something related to learnability as well. So first time users use your application, let's say you're using applications such as Facebook or Instagram. So first time you use the application years ago, you have to learn something. So even though the UI is pretty straightforward, you have to learn. This is how we can post something. This is how we can comment. This is how we can upload a picture. So the next time you log into the system, you don't have to learn them again. You have those in your memory. This is how we can learn it, like do some particular task. So it is automatic. It is in your memory. and errors. So in the errors, in error handling, when users have to fill a form, for an example, let's say a Google form or a website contact us page, uh, we have certain fields. Let's say website contact us page, we have first name, last name, email address, phone number, and message. So you have to give error messages if users don't do what you expect. Let's say, for an example, for the email address field, we have to add a validation that it should be a like actual email address. You have to check if it has a at sign, it has a domain .com .org or something like that. You have to make sure that you do your error handling, and you have to present notify your users as well. Otherwise, they don't know. So the after all this, we have to satisfy our users as well. So that is the point. We have to make sure that they come back to our system. So it is easy to get new users to your system as a UX designer or a product designer. But if you can keep that users in your system, like if you have returning users to your system, we can say that it is a good usable product, and people don't have to learn your uh, design flow again and again, and it is efficient, memorable, and it gives error messages to users and tell them what to do and what not to do. And finally, if it satisfies your users, it is a good product. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, these are some day-to-day applications we use in Sri Lanka actually. So I think most of you are familiar with some of these applications, particularly in this set. So I want you to tell me about one application you use in your day-to-day life or anything, and tell me one point that you like about the application and one thing you don't like that you think that they need to improve. So let's start with Achinta. Tell me one application you like and one advantage and one disadvantage.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna go with this Sri Lankan Electricity Board application. It's very
Yeah.
easy to pay the bill by just by giving the account number stated in the this their physical document. But the only thing is, after the payment, we are not getting the email correctly. Sometimes we are not getting it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Hashini?
I use BOC app. Uh, it is very useful. Mm,
Okay. One thing you don't like?
sometimes I think slow.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Rifat?
I would say about the Spotify, the songs they have various all the songs in there, but
Okay.
sometimes if we can't skip those songs several times.
Okay. All right. And then Nadika Fernando?
Can I say an app that is not here, like the HNB mobile banking app?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, one thing I like about the app is like it's very easy to add new beneficiaries or like maintain a list of beneficiaries. Um, and the online transactions are very quick.
Mhm.
The one thing I don't like about it is sometimes you know it's difficult to as in like you have this fixed deposit option and all, so there's like a small difficulty in that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Nadisha?
I think Daras app is user friendly because we can easily order something we can't quickly buy from AliExpress. The thing I noticed was if anyone know our bank, our credit or debit card pin and not pin, the number written on the card and the three digits number, they can enter and buy something. I don't know whether it is correct or not, but I noticed anyone can enter the details.
Okay, thank you. Natania? Hello. All right. So most of these applications, I think you are familiar with. These are some learning applications for coders, and this is electricity board application, and these are camera and Google Maps, Chrome and Gmail, and these are some telecommunication providers. I wonder that anyone uh, didn't told about dialogue application. So I think most of the users will agree that it is having a really bad user experience. It is buggy and it is slow, and you can't quickly pay your bill or add a new data add-on or anything. So that is one thing that most of the users mention when we are interviewing them and asking them about the application they use in daily basis. And we have Ikman and Daras as well. From the banking application, I find that HNB and also the Nation Trust application is really good user-friendly application, especially the Nation Trust application. If you enter the account number, just the account number, they will populate with all the details. Like they will give you the bank and they will give you the user's name, and also they will ask you to confirm as well. So that is a good feature that application has. You don't have to enter all the details. And Uber and PickMe, I think you already familiar with most of these ride sharing apps. So I find the Uber is more user friendly, particularly because it has very less features and minimalized design in comparing to PickMe. And these are some social media applications, and you are familiar with all of them. So let's talk about these usability in detail. So first one is learnability. Learnability is how easy it for user to complete basic tasks in the first time. The users can quickly go from not knowing the system to getting some work done with it. So as I mentioned, in the banking application, so as soon as you open a bank account or as soon as you sign up for internet banking, the bank people will ask you to download the application. So you know how to send money to someone using the system. Let's say you have to physically present in the bank and you have to fill a particular form, and then you have to go in the queue and go to the counter and put your signature and give money physically to that person in the counter and do your transaction, and you finally receive a receipt for your transaction as well. So this is also following the same user flow, and it is much easier. So it is something about learnability. So the first time you are using application, you have to enter your bank. So bank details will be linked to your account. But if you want to send money to someone else, you have to add their bank account details. You can save it as a beneficiary if you are sending money recurrently, like again and again. But so that step you have to learn. You have to add user details, you have to add their phone number or bank branch and every details in the system. But the next time you come to your system, you already have that in your beneficiary list, or you know how to add a new beneficiary as well without learning. And this is one thing we as UX designers follow to educate our users. So we call this onboarding process. So we have this kind of a onboarding process. Like this has 3-step onboarding process where we tell our users what are the things that we can do by using this particular application. We can add all accounts and manage, track your activity and make online payment and enjoy. So it at glance, users can understand these are the main functions of this application. So it is a good practice to give them a onboarding experience as soon as they sign up or sign into their system. So they will learn even before they are trying to interact with the application. So they won't make much errors when comparing to the applications that don't have onboarding experience like this. And again, this is Google Slides or Google Sheets, I think. So it has these kind of a tooltips. So when you are hovering over a particular section of your table or a button, it will give you these tooltips. This attribute is enriched and can't be edited. So those messages should be there. So if users are trying to edit something of this message will show them that they can't, why they can't do, and how they can proceed. So that is also good user experience for users. So they won't make any accident mistakes in the system. And that is learnability. And then efficiency. Efficiency is once users have learned the design, how quickly can they perform task. So in the learnability, they learn the user flow. Let's again take something like Instagram. So first time you download the application, you don't have idea about how to post or how to comment on someone else or how to send a DM. So as soon as you learn the process, how to send a DM or how to post a picture, you know that this is how we can do it. So then you can, the application has to be efficient. So if users learn the user flow, they expect it to behave faster than the first attempt. So your application should show that, let's say we are posting a picture. So they will show you the progress bar, how much is uploaded, is upload done. And so those details should be there. And also it has to be quick and efficient as well. Memorability. When users return to the designing after period of not using it, how easy can they redo the task? So let's say, let's take a physical object for an example. Let's say you, in the childhood, you learn to ride a bicycle. So after some time, you uh, haven't had much time to ride bicycles, so you sell your bicycle or something happened. But after certain time, like even 10-15 years, again, if you get a bicycle, you can still ride it. So it has in your muscle memory. So that is something we can apply in UX design as well. So when users return to the designing after period of not using it, how easily can they redo the task? So let's go to digital world again. So let's say you deactivate your Facebook account for a while, for a 1 year or something. You want to study for your exams or something like that. And then after that particular time, when you come back to the system, when you come back to Facebook, you can easily navigate. You know that these are the buttons that were there. They don't do much of the UI changes, particularly for the user flow or the weave. They just fine tune the design by using different icons and interactions. So you can still use it because it has in your memory. And errors. How many errors do users make? How easily can they recover from the errors? So error handling is something really important if you are designing applications such as applications that require user input. For example, let's say you have a form that you have to submit. Let's say a banking application. You want to send money to someone. So if you don't add the account number correctly, so let's say one person want to send a money to a third party person, like a different bank. So if the banking application don't do the error handling correctly, the money will be sent to someone else. So we have to make sure we have to give them errors like this account number is wrong or this email address is wrong. You have to input a valid phone number. So these errors should be prompt to your users in order to enhance your user experience and to do the right thing. And finally, the satisfaction. How pleasant is to use the design. Users are subjectively satisfied by using the system. So as I said, all of the users that come to your system have different expectations about how should the system should perform. For example, one user expect it to be faster. One user might like to have some micro interactions, animations, and so on. So one user uh, might expect it to be informative. He or she like to read some content and follow the steps. So you have to consider all those users as well. And finally, you have to give them a pleasant user experience so they will return to your system and they will memorize, they will remember the previous experience they had with your system. So these are some examples about how we can improve our usability of the applications. So in here we have these cards, and if you want to delete something, even in the Gmail application you use to that, if you swipe right, it will give you the delete icon. So if you click on delete icon, it will still give you an option to undo whatever the chat or whatever the email you received. So that eliminates the accidental deletes, accidental actions that users perform in the system. And also in Google Sheets or any other application that consists so much of records, let's say if user selected all the rows and deleted all the rows in the application, but after deleting them, even though they want to delete, they have to confirm the deletion as well. So they have to confirm by clicking on a pop-up in particular system. But even after that, we are giving them an option to undo their action. So that is also a good user experience practice. And if you want to delete something in your recycle bin, even in your computer or a phone, it will give you this confirmation message. Are you sure that you want to delete this particular item? So that is also a good user experience. And we always have to give our users what is happening in the system. Let's say it has some background task. User uploaded some picture or a file. So if you are not showing them what is happening in the background, the users won't understand what is happening. So they will get confused and they will try to re-upload it, or they may be refresh the page. So, but if you are providing them with enough details about what is happening in the background, it is a good user experience and users know what is happening and they will wait till the uploading is done. Okay, that is the usability. And next we are going to talk about accessibility. So if you have any questions up until now, you can ask or you can send a message on Zoom chat as well. All right, let's continue. What is accessibility? So I think you are familiar with all these icons, particularly this one represent visual impairment and also motor impairment, hearing impairments. And these are some settings that we interact when this is user and settings, and this is closed captions, and this is responsiveness. So we have to include all these practices and some of others as well when we are designing a system and considering accessibility for your system. So the first one, visual accessibility. So these are some principles of visual accessibility in design. We have to pay close attention to colors and color contrast. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the people who have visual impairment, they won't be able to see some colors in your system. So if your target users have like considerable amount of that particular users, you have to consider putting colors that friendly with those kind of users. There are tools in internet that I will put on Google Classroom where you can see by putting your Figma file or a website address and see how much you score in visual impairment test and how we can improve, how the people with different impairments see your screen. So those are good tools that you can use when you're doing your designs. Font sizes and weights. So if your users are like, let's say they are older generation, so they prefer to have text and font in large sizes. So you have to consider those options as well. Either you can make it default or you can give them an option to increase the size of the fonts as well and turn your article into audio. So another option is if they can't read your screen, they can't read at all, you can, what you can do is you can turn your article into audio. But in modern browsers or in modern phones, you don't have to do that yourself because most of those have screen readers implemented by default. Do not forget about screen readers. So screen readers is there to do your task. So in order for screen readers to perform correctly, you have to give understandable, meaningful content for them as well. So let's say we have a button here. Uh, let's say we have the search bar here for an example. So if your screen reader don't have like meaningful text, uh, uh, let's say the meaningful text can be search here or search speech to text and something like that. So if they don't have that, they won't, the users with visual impairment don't understand what this particular element in the screen do. So you have to make sure you put meaningful text as well. Be specific with your alt text. So alt text or alternative text is something that developers, front-end developers use when they coding your application. For an example, let's say we have an image in a website. Let's say this image. Uh, I'm not sure they have it. Okay, let's say this image, this particular image. So if it has an alternative tag, this is a background actually. Let's take this one. Okay, here you have the image and image URL as well. So this is where that they are loading image. But for the screen readers, Google have added the alt. You can see the alternative text is Google Classroom. So you have to make sure you add those tags as well. So the screen readers can perform, and even though your image disappear because of some server error or you deleted it accidentally, but still the screen readers will pick up what it is and it will read for the users with visual impairment. Be specific with your alternative text. So this form field design relies only on red and green to indicate fields and without an error. Colorblind users cannot differentiate the fields highlighted in red. So on the left hand side, you have the screen with the successful form fields and the errors. So we use green color to represent success in UI and also red color to give them some warning or something like that. So, but the people with visual impairment won't be able to see these all the colors. So they can only see this color, but they can't differentiate between red and green. So in order to uh, include those users to your system, what you can do is you can give this kind of a fix and cross marks. For an example, for the ones with successful uh, fields, you can give the tick in green color and the cross icon for the ones we have errors, and we can add a meaningful text underneath the element that has an error. you can prompt them a message as well. So even for the users who don't have visual impairment, they can see all your colors, but people with visual impairment, they can easily see these icons and they can see that there is an error as well. The use of icons and labels to show which fields are invalid better communicates the information to a colorblind user. So for the colorblind user, it will be really helpful for them to understand what went wrong with the user inputs he has given. And this is another example. Most of the news websites, if you take a BBC, CNN, or anything, even before the browsers itself implemented screen readers, they had these kind of a play article option. So it will play the audio for the users with impairments. And here we have the text with very less contrast. Let's say these lines of text do not meet the color contrast ratio recommendations and are difficult to read against their background color. So in the first text, we have white color as background color and the very light gray as a text color. So it is really hard for users to differentiate between these background and foreground, and the readability is very less. So you have to make sure you follow the recommended contrast ratio between your background and foreground colors for text. And even for the dark background, we still can't read it when comparing to this one. So if you have proper ratio between color contrast ratio, the recommended value, the user should be able to read it very easily. So there are some plugins in Figma and also in any other design tools you're familiar with, like Adobe UX or even Sketch app. They have tools that already implemented to test your readability in your design elements. So in the second example, the lines of text follow the color contrast ratio recommendations and are legible against their background colors. So you can clearly see the difference. These are very readable when comparing to the top one. Okay. So any questions so far? You can ask if there's anything. Okay, here is another use case. Low contrast text is hard to read on desktop, but it becomes even more difficult on mobile. Imagine trying to read low contrast text on a mobile device while walking in bright sunlight. Yet again, this is a good reminder that accessible visual design is better visual design for all users. So let's take an example. Let's say you are designing an application for Salesforce people. So Salesforce people, let's say they are the one who traveling everywhere, like logistic people. They deliver goods to their sellers, and they have this kind of a tab or a mobile application in their phone. Most of the time, they are not working inside the office, but they go to direct sunlight or the yards or things like that. But when you are designing a particular application for these kind of target users, you have to consider uh, the screen brightness levels as well, because most of the time they open their mobile apps or tabs under the direct sunlight. So you have to consider the viewability, and you have to increase the contrast level. You have to uh, select colors based on their requirement as well. So in your use case, if you have that particular requirement, you have to go to field and try your designs and try to open your designs under direct sunlight and try to optimize it accordingly. So that is also a different user expectation and different set of users that we are talking about. Okay. So in this particular online shopping application, let's say person with a visual impairment try to buy this kind of a product. So they can't see all the colors here. or maybe they won't be able to understand what is the graphic is about. But if you provide them an useful description on right hand side, let's say the white regular fit t-shirt with a this kind of a graphic on it, and these are the colors it uses, and this is the size. So it is really useful for person who don't have uh, good visual skills, or they can't see colors, colorblind people. So in here, for an example, we have all the details that is required. Let's say it has product details, what type of a t-shirt, and painted or not painted, all the details are there. The brand details and size and fit, height, how to wash it, and all the details are there. Even for the person who don't have visual impairment, they prefer this kind of a design because it has all the details they can offer when comparing to this one. They don't know what they will get. It just give them like regular fit size, a white t-shirt, and when comparing this one, it give all the details. And as I mentioned earlier, I showed you in the browser as well. Uh, we use alternative text for images when we are doing uh, coding. Actually, it is a HTML feature, so it will help screen readers to read your code, as well as search engines to crawl your website and optimize and add them to their system. And if you have broken images, if you have any server errors, or if you accidentally delete your images, it will show the alternative text links for your users. So it is a good practice, good UX practice, as well as good technical practice to use alternative text. So I'm not going to talk about in detail because this is not a front-end development course. But even if you are doing UI and UX designing, I think most of you will have to do coding as well, because when companies hire some people, they expect you to know some part of a coding as well. So you will get an advantage when comparing to people with only UX background if you have a coding experience as well. So it is a good practice to remember these and follow these as well. Okay, these are people with motor impairment. So you can use sending voice memos, and also there are assistants like Google Assistant, Siri, and so on, Amazon Alexa. So you can use those assistants as well. Okay. Now, for the people who has hearing impairment, we can use captions. So even if you open YouTube or a Netflix video, you have subtitles or closed captions embedded to the system itself. You can upload your transcript file, and it will automatically generate closed caption or translate or anything. So it is a good practice to use closed captions as well. Okay, so we talked about all these: visual impairment, mood impairment, hearing impairment, and what are the personalized options that we can give for these users. We can personalize their experience based on their screen size and so on, and we can give them closed captions, and we can give them responsive design where they can use on different devices. Okay, Nadika is asking a question: what are the programming languages that are required? So it is not actually required, but it is good to have. So if you pursue a career in UI and UX design, if you have front-end skills such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, it is really good. So you will get a competitive advantage when comparing to person with only designing background. And if you want to learn more about coding, it is always a good practice to learn some frameworks such as React, AngularJS, Vue.js after you learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are minimum, and Angular, React, or even Vue.js is also will also give you an advantage. And there are some CSS frameworks as well, like Tailwind and Bootstrap. So if you really want to get into a UI and UX designer and developer field, you might need to know all these tools as well. That is a good question. Thank you. Okay, we covered up until here. So this is some website accessibility checklist. So all the companies, all the agencies have different accessibility guidelines, but most of them are similar because the standards are maintained by very few governing bodies in Europe and US. So those things we have to consider. So this is one checklist I've found on internet. So the number one, when we do a website or let's say for here it is a website. So when we do a website, before we are launching the website, we have to review it. We have to QA it, and quality assurance team will do that. And after that, we have to uh, go through this checklist and make sure that everything is there. So number one is provide alternative text for non-text content. So non-text content can be any rich media. For an example, let's say an image or a video or even a audio clip, MP3. Or with HTML5, we have canvases where we can interact and play games or anything. So if your if your rich media content don't have an alternative text, let's say the person's connection is really slow, then it won't load the video faster. So you can have the alternative text there and show it to them. If the person's internet connectivity is not stable, you can still have the alternative text for the canvas and so on. And also, as I mentioned earlier, your image got deleted accidentally. And if you have the alternative text there, people can see, people can read and know what it is about. And it will also will help people with accessibility issues, such as visual impaired people can read the message and so on. Add captions or subtitles to video and audio content. So if your website or a design or mobile application uh, has so much of a video or audio content, you can put subtitles for each of these video or audio. So it will help people with visual impairment. They can, people with hearing impairment, they can read your text and understand what is it about. So make content distinguishable with the help of color and contrast. So we talked about color and contrast ratio, the recommended ratio in previous slides. So you have to make sure that your content is distinguishable and people can easily scan through and understand what is happening, what are the areas that they should focus. So those you have to maintain good color and contrast ratio in between your elements in your screens. And number 4, ensure audio video volume control as well as mechanism to stop or pause audio and video. So let's say you have audio or video in your screen, in your website. So if user log in using public computer, or he's using your product in his office or in a library. So when they come to your website, if your video or audio auto plays and it is in maximum level of volume, so it will be really distracting, and also it will give hard time for users as well. So it is really good. It is a good practice to implement these videos or audios. Don't allow them to play automatically, and make sure you mute the volume as well. So it give better user experience for every user. So if user need to play it loud, they can quickly toggle the volume icon and play the video. And in Sri Lanka, let's say people have a metered internet connection. He has like 100 MB in his computer or a internet connection. So if they visit your website and the video play without knowing, so his all data will be gone. So you have to make sure you address those issues and make sure give them control to play or stop the video as well. So it is a good practice to use muted videos and autoplay not enabled videos by default if you are implementing them in your website. Make all functionality available from a keyboard. So let's say person is using a mouse or a touch screen device and it is not working for some reason, especially the mouse is not working for some reason or touch trackpad in the laptop. So you have to give them an options, the keyboard options, bind keyboards for keyboard keys for different functions such as tab key to go to next section or enter key to enter whatever the details they already typed. So those alternative options should be there. So it will improve the accessibility of the website as well. Give users enough time to read and use the content, no time limits. So let's say you have an application where you design to book movie tickets. So as soon as you select the movie, and we will give you the interface with all the seats in the cinema where they can select a particular 2 seats they want to sit, and then if we give them like 60-second or very limited time frame, they don't have time to read what are they watching, they can't confirm, they might make accidental mistakes. So in order to avoid that, we have to give them much more time. So particularly in the example I took, the movie ticket booking scenario, we can't give them like much time, like because other people will also want to book a movie ticket, and if the a person take like 1-2 hours to book a ticket, it will be an issue. So you have to consider the use case and give them enough time in screen to read and understand what they are doing by interacting with the system. Make text content readable and understandable. As I mentioned in previous text, all the text content. So the content writer, if you are a good UX designer, you have to consider the content writing as well. So the creative writing, SEO writing is something that content writers do. But in order to maintain a good content, good user-friendly content, there are some guidelines that you should follow. Some of them are avoid jargons. So let's say even though the person who designed or developed the system are tech savvy, like they are technically capable, let's say your target users are not that technically sound. So they won't be able to read your jargon terms and understand. So if you use simple, readable and understandable text in your content, it will be really helpful for every user who uses the system. So you have to make sure that as well. Provide ways to help users navigate, find content, and determine where they are. So if you go to a website, let's say, let's show you an example. Okay, this website. So we have this website and it helps users to navigate. So you can easily navigate by clicking on this menu icon and go to one of these menu options and even these tabs. So you can easily navigate through the website. And even so find content. So how we can prompt users to find content is we can give them a search bar so they can easily search and find. And also in different applications, we can group similar kind of icons together so they know that by following this part of the screen, we can do these things. So let's say, for an example, in this particular screen, we have all the slides listed on right hand side. So the users know if I want to go to another slide, I have to click on one of these different slides. So the similar icons should group together as well. And find content and determine where they are. To determine where they are, you can see that this stream is highlighted and underlined. So the users know that they are in the stream. And also if we go to home, this one is highlighted. So you have to maintain that particular actions as well. Make pages operate in a predictable way. So as I mentioned earlier, when users visiting your website, they already experience similar websites in the internet because they have go to those websites and interact with them, and they expect certain behaviors. So let's say for an example, when they visit Google or anything, or let's say you have a online shopping application, they expect you in your website. And then if you have this particular website with all the user cards and everything, they want you to have a ordering list, like for an example, ascending or descending order, or a latest or order. You have to give them an option to order them correctly as well. And then another one, provide ways to always help navigate users, determine where they are, predictable way, help users to avoid and correct mistakes. So as I mentioned here, if they make a mistake, if they type a different email address, if they don't type the complete email address, you have to give them an error message by saying, please enter a valid email address, or we can give them a cross icon uh, to show what went wrong, and they can quickly correct it and submit whatever the form they are in. And then finally, ensure compatibility with assistive technologies. So compatibility with assistive technologies is something that we mentioned, the closed captions, the subtitles, and also the translation. So those tools, if we implement in our website, it will be really helpful for users. So let's say you are developing an application and your target users are in Latin America or South America, and the first language they use is Spanish. So if your website is in English, they won't be able to understand, and they won't be able to uh, read it or do the actions that you expect them to do. In that case, we have to consider using a translation. We call it localization. So based on their local area or a demography, you have to localize your website as well. So you can have a different content for people whose native tongue is Japanese or Russian or Spanish, and implement that in your website. What you can do is you can get their IP address and determine their location and give the content to suit their country. For an example, let's say the IP is from Brazil or somewhere. You have to get the IP address and give them the website version in Spanish, and so on. So here we have closed content and different between subtitles, closed captions, and open captions. So in features column, we have language usually matches audio. In subtitles, we don't do that. Language usually matches the audio. In closed caption, yes, and even open captions, yes, because it is uh, happening real time most of the time. And even if you upload a SRT file, uh, you most of the time maintain the same audio and closed caption languages, turning them on and off at will. So you can turn on or turn off. If you interact with media players such as Netflix, you can always turn on and turn off the closed captions as well, even in YouTube as well. And open captions don't allow that to happen. Includes background sound descriptions. So if you are playing a video or movie on Netflix, a particular, you see that if it is a background sound, they will show in within brackets what is happening in closed captions and open captions. But in subtitles, you don't have that particular option. So as I mentioned earlier, these are some localization tools. You can follow one of these UIs. You have one you have with the flag and the then whatever the language. But nowadays, most of the time, you don't have to implement these because most of the users have Google Chrome and Safari or any other browsers. If their system language is something different to English, let's say Japanese or something, and the website content will also show them in that particular language if it has available, if it is available, I'm sorry. So this is also a good option if you are considering user experience and try to personalize user experience based on their demography. And then we have responsive layouts. So in here, so as a UX designer, when you are starting designing, let's say you are designing a website, we call it mobile first design. The first design you will do is for a mobile devices. And then you increase the sizes of your screen and put more content in tablet size or desktop size screens. So in here, in mobile first design, we have what we call is media files. So in your CSS file, you have to make sure you add media queries based on the screen size. Let's say the mobile size is x-axis width is 360 pixels. So you have to make sure ones that fall below 360 pixels follow one query. So it should look like this and so on. But that is something the front-end developer do. But when you are designing in Figma, let's say if you go to Figma, and I'm going to open new design file. It's limit as batch 18. So in Figma, it supports these frame sizes. For the phone, it has these sizes, and if you're designing for tablet, it has these sizes and desktop, and even for other watch and other screens as well. So if you are designing a website, the first thing you have to do is you have to start off with the mobile, and then after you complete the mobile design, you have to do the tablet design. Let's open a tablet. So I'm going to take this. So this is the tablet size. And then finally, you have to do designs for desktop. Desktop as well. So if you are following this mobile first design, it will be easier for you to add all necessary elements. Let's say you don't have much screen space. We call the screen space we have real estate in designing. So you don't have much real estate in comparing to other screen sizes. So you have to add all the viable, all the necessary things here. So let's say like a search bar, like a menu icons, like all the necessary things, not much content, because if you add so much content, it will distract users. And also if you give so many things to choose from, users will have hard time deciding what should they select. But if you have larger screen sizes like tab or even desktop size, you can implement more design features and give them more options. But for the mobile, you have to make sure you give them a bare minimum. So if your users, if your website is not mobile optimized, or if it is not responsive, the users will get, you will experience really hard navigating through your website. They will experience they can't easily like navigate, they can't easily access your website, they can't perform their task correctly. So as UX designers, another point you have to understand is in current day web traffic, almost 75% web traffic are from mobile devices. So that is why we are using mobile first as a good practice when we are designing something. Okay. Now let's check the time. All right. So do you have any questions up until now? I have one question. Okay. Achinta don't have any questions. Anyone else? All right, let's talk about UX and UI. What is the differences and what are the similarities? So in left-hand side, we have UX, where we have topics such as UX strategy, UX research, information architecture, and testing. UX strategy is something that, let's say as a role, strategy is the role of UX engineer. So if you get a UX project, a UX engineer will come up with a plan, which we call a strategy or a blueprint of a product. So how to perform a user survey, user interviews, how to do the design, what is the content of the team, how many designers, how many product uh, managers, how many product owners, how many quality assurance engineers. So that are the what is the time frame, what is the budget, and these are the things that UX strategy document will have. User research is something UX researchers do. So let's say you are designing an application for a ride-sharing company. So the UX researcher will research about particular applications, that competitor application. Let's say in Sri Lanka, they might search about Uber or PickMe. Or if we go to East Asia, they might search about Grab. Or in America, they might search about Lyft or any other application that exist in the world in similar category. And they also have to do user research as well. Let's say same ride sharing app, the target users, you think that your target users are this particular users, and then you have to visit them, and then you have to interview, you have to ask them questions, different questions to understand their requirement. You can ask them questions such as how is your daily life, are you using ride sharing, what are the things that you like about this particular ride sharing app, and what are the things that you don't like. So those asking those kind of a question, we can learn about their experience and avoid what they don't like and put the features that most people like in our application. And then information architecture, that is also what UX engineer, the one with more experience, will do. And you have to make sure that these are the hierarchy of the design. Search bar should be here. What are the elements that we show up in the dashboard? What are the elements? What is the user flow? How we can fine line, how we can streamline our user flow based on different user experiences, how we can customize. So what are the different users, what they expect? So information architecture or data architecture. So it is kind of like hierarchy of the visual representation in your screen, like where to put certain elements and so on. And finally, the testing. So after we done all this, we have to do UX testing, which is also another uh, task that we need to involve with our users as well. So when we do the design, let's say we are not testing the final product here, let's say we come up with a prototype. Let's a basic prototype with a minimum requirement. We call it a minimum viable product, MVP. So with that requirement, we go to our users. We interviewed earlier in the process in the user research, and we present them with the solution we made. It is not the final product, but it is somewhat working product. So we record them, how they interact, what are the roadblocks they face when they are using application, how we can fine tune the user process. So we can decide by watching them working with the system. And if we take UI, UI is actually, if we take UX, it is UI and UX. So UI is the look of your system and UX is more the feel. So we call it UI and UX, look and feel of your system. So look is UI, feel is UX. So in UI, we talk about color theory. So even when you are selecting colors for certain website or certain application, we have to consider color theory as well, because every color that we are choosing represent different human emotion. For an example, let's say for a success, the green color is bind with success. The red color is with danger. So if you want to give a warning, we can use yellow color. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn use blue color because they want to build a trust among users. And Instagram use gradient color like with yellow, pink, uh, purple or different colors because they want to give a playful feeling for their users. And also there are some applications that uses colors as well. So all these colors has different meaning. They represent different human emotion and different people like different colors, particularly if we take two genders, female like different colors and male like different colors. So you have to uh, find a perfect mesh when considering your end users and put the colors they like in your system as well. So it should be meaningful when you are selecting colors as well. Same goes with typography. If your system is for, let's say, for professional users, if you're designing a banking application, and you are using some novelty font or something like that, it won't match. But if you're using sans serif for some professional font in your system, it will be really good for the users with professional background because they expect your application to behave that particular way. And design pattern is also really important. There are design patterns. Actually, we are going to talk about design patterns in detail later in our sessions. So you have to follow those design patterns as well. And actually, you can't say that these are the number of design patterns we have and we have to follow this because those can be updated in daily basis. So you have to follow design trends and get to know what other co-designers are doing, what are the experts are doing, and follow them as well when you are doing design patterns. So if you're following a blog or UX design articles, it is really good. Even there are some YouTube channels dedicated for UX designing as well, where you can follow and learn something new. Because if you don't update your knowledge, if you don't learn something new every day, your design will go obsolete. So no one will particularly like your design because it is outdated. And if you want to become a good designer, you have to learn new design trends and search what other people are do in everyday basis. So there are some places that you can learn and see those designs. One is called Dribble and another one is Behance. We will talk about them when we are building our portfolio, and I will share you some links on Google Classroom as well. Interactivity and animation also comes under UI. So we have a job role as interaction designer. His responsibilities are creating like responsive or micro interactions for users when they are using particular product and animations. So that is also another really good role, that if you like animation or interactivity in your system. And even for the modern day, like emerging technologies such as AR and VR, we have these kind of interactive and animation designing job roles particularly. And if we take both of these, we have uh, we have to consider empathy. Empathy is when you are designing, you have to empathize with your users. So get to know your users is number one, and then empathize with them and do your designs accordingly. And collaboration. Collaboration can be with your team. Let's say you have co-designers in your team. So you have to collaborate with them. And also, if you have a product owner or product manager in your team, you have to collaborate with them as well. And again, if we have users in our most of the designing companies follow agile development methodology. So that means we have to uh, conduct user research. We have to participate our users even from the beginning, even from the research or wireframing process of our design. So collaboration is also really important if you want to do a good design that users like. Design thinking. So how to think like a designer, how to think in a user-centric way. So those things you have to learn. There are some articles and also there are some really good books about design thinking, how to think like a UX designer. And I will add some book recommendations. Uh, they are available in Sri Lanka as well, the books, and also you can download free PDFs from internet as well. I will share some links on Google Classroom after the class. And finally, prototyping is also another thing. So after you do the design, after you consider strategy, research, information architecture, and all the color theory, and do the visual elements, and empathize with users, collaboration, design thinking, you have to prototype. So prototype, in the prototyping, in Figma, you have a prototype tool. So I will discuss it with you later. So when we do the prototype, we can send it to our end users. Let's say we are sending it to our stakeholders, client who ask us to do particular project, and we'll get their feedback regarding that prototype. It is kind of like a presentation, but it is a clickable prototype where they can interact with the system, not the final working product, but the design. So it is kind of like a click-through prototype. So you can interact and understand what is the user flow and how we can improve, what are the steps we can follow. So those things will be there. And even for the users, we can send the same prototype and we put screen recordings. There are screen recording software such as Microsoft Clarity, and also there's one called Hotjar where we can use to track user interactions. Let's say we can see their mouse movements, where they click, where their attention are. So we can track user interactions, and there are some eye trackers as well. So if we can invite one of these users to our labs or our company, we can install a eye tracker software and find out where uh, their attention goes in the screen. So we can focus on that particular part of the screen and give them more information and streamline the process based on user behavior and user interactions with the system. So let's take a 15-minute break. And if you have any questions, you can ask through chat. I will get back to you after the break. And let's meet in 15 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, we talk about UI and UX and what are the similarities between them and how they differentiate from each other. So let's see, don't have any questions. Okay, let's move forward with UX strategy. UX strategy it is used to create an understanding between designers and the goals of the business, product and feature. So let's say you are designing something and you don't consider about your stakeholders input or your users, so that product won't be successful. So in order to have a good product, good successful product that can help your end users to achieve their goals successfully, we have to create a good sound UX strategy first. So the UX strategy creation is a responsibility for main responsibility of UX engineer, and also all the team members should participate as well in order to create a good UX strategy. So when creating UX strategy, uh, the team, let's say a product manager or a UX engineer, the leader of the team, have to have a good understanding about what are the uh, strong points of team members, what they can do, how they can perform. So in order to give different responsibilities for different users, you have to know your team as well. So that is by considering all these, you can create a UX strategy. So you, as stakeholders, you have to communicate with your client, and also if your team consists of, let's say, product owner or product designer, several product designers, and product manager, QA designer, or interns, or someone, you have to gather as a group and discuss about UX strategy and what can we do, how we can do something, when we can complete certain tasks, what are the priorities of this particular project, what our end user goals expect, what is the success, as you ask your client what you think as a success in this particular project. So you can match your project and your project task to achieve that particular goals given by your client. And also you have to include your final user input as well, because we as a UX designers, the first thing, even though we are creating designs for our clients, we always have to make sure the end user of these particular designs are users. So you have to make sure you do user-centric design, and if your client giving you some other requirements that users don't like, you have to tell him that these are the user expectations of this particular system, and we have to follow. We have to think that we call it users are always right when we do a design. So even if you think that your design is fine-tuned according to you or your team, but your users behave certainly very different way. So you have to uh, interview your clients, and even though if you interview your clients and do the design according to their requirement, you have to follow up. You have to see screen recordings and do things like that. So all these come into place when you are creating UX strategy. More specifically, it is a document of guidelines and rules that outline how the design team aims to achieve the organization product objectives. So it is kind of like a plan. So if it has deadlines, and also it has priority list or project plan. So most of these companies, like design companies, design teams follow Agile as a product development methodology. So in Agile, we have to participate with our users and stakeholders, because it is an iterative process. Designing is not a linear process. You can't start design today and complete it in a linear process by within a week. you have to go back and forth and do changes. It is an iterative process. You have to fine tune your wireframes, and then again you have to do some user research. Again, you have to do the designing, the low fidelity designing, and again you have to present it to your users and get their feedback, and again fine tuning and so on. So it is an iterative process. So you have to uh, outline the objectives and the timeline based on that. UX strategy is the process that should be started first before the design or development of a digital product begins. So even though you get a requirement and your client said, let's say he's saying that our project is really simple and it don't need any strategy or anything, you can just start by designing it. Don't do that, because in the end, so if you do this kind of a design and go to market, you will get problems. Your users won't like it, and after you launch the product, you can't do those changes. So always make sure you do your research thoroughly and come up with your strategy and research, and uh, do your design after that. So it will be tempting for you to do the design first, but hold it for a little uh, while we have sound UX strategy and also complete user research and other steps that involve in the UX process. Okay, this is UX strategy. So the first thing is we have to understand our users, because those are the end users. Those are the targets that we are creating this product with, creating this product for, actually. So if we can satisfy them, if we can give them what they expecting, it is a really good product. So you need to understand who your users are and what market fit your product has. So the first thing is you have to understand your users. So you can interview them, you can, let's say, uh, for this example, I'm also taking ride sharing app. So for the ride sharing app, one thing you can do is you can interview different users in different demography, or different who has different backgrounds. You can interview in people in corporate world, you can interview students, you can interview mothers who use ride sharing services to take their kids to classes and so on. So different users tell different stories, so how they use that particular application. You need to understand who your users are. That is the first thing. And what market fit your product has. So even though if you study your users really well, if you don't study your market, if you don't study your competitors and the time of the market, let's say you want to launch an application and everything is good, like you interviewed your users and users like your idea and you implement all the things that users require, and you have a good funding and you have good advertising strategy and everything in place, and there's a pandemic or some kind of a situation, there's a curfew or something like that, so you can't launch your product because people can't mobilize during that particular time. So you have to consider market situation, fit your how much your product fit the market. And another thing, like if you create a ride sharing app, let's say in Singapore or any other country, they have bicycle sharing app, like bicycle pools in the market. You can go to that particular bicycle and scan the QR code, the bicycle will unlock, and you can take the bicycle wherever you want and keep the bicycle somewhere and go to your work. But you can't implement this in Sri Lanka. You know what will happen to all the bicycles. So you have to consider those market fits as well when you are designing a product. Understand your value. You need to understand your product's value. So we call it value proposition. So you have to make sure that you have your product is valuable for users and it is addressing some kind of a issue that users are facing. So because we are try to find solutions for people's day-to-day problems. So in order to make it a successful product, you have to address some kind of a issue that people are facing. So you have to understand the value of your product before you launch it to the market, before when you are doing your UX strategy. Know how you solve the problem. So as I mentioned, you are trying to solve a problem that one particular user is facing or many users are facing. You need to understand how your product actually solves those key problems. Let's say, for an example, again, ride sharing application. So in office hours or even in peak hours, most of the users in Colombo area won't be able to find a taxi because of the surge or because of the so much demand during that particular time. So if your product can address that, or if your product can address any other feature that users require, one thing you can do is you can go to, if you are designing ride sharing application again, you can go to that competitors Google Play Store or Apple App Store application. So let's say I'm going to Uber Apple App Store application and users put reviews there. So most of the reviews the users put uh, are negative because they want to complain something. So that is when they want to put a review. Some users put good reviews as well if they have time, but most of the time users put negative reviews on your product. So that is a good learning place that you can get ideas. What are the things that users are complaining? How we can improve our system based on those users' reviews? What are the competitors lack? How we can add that to our system and gain trust from those kind of users? So you have to know how you solve the problems. Have a clear vision. You need to know where you are going. Have a clear vision helps you work on what's the most valuable. So when you are creating a project plan like UX strategy, you have to have a clear vision as well. So if your team members, let's say you have 5 members in your team, and everyone is involving in creating UX strategy. So everyone are on the same page and they know what is the vision what are the end goals, what is the weekly goals, and so on. So in you companies, uh, especially in software companies, we have design sprints, we call them. So we have weekly sprints. So in the beginning of the week, let's say Monday, we have a stand up. So in that stand up, we are discussing about what are the priorities that we should focus in this particular week. And we get tasks from our team leader. For an example, let's say I'm good at visual designing. So he will assign me some visual design tasks that I have to complete by Friday or by Monday when we have next stand up. So design print is something really good. There are books as well. Actually, the design print was introduced by Google Ventures. So it is a good practice that most of these companies follow. And there's another process called Double Diamond. It is also the designing process or a design project management process under Agile methodology where you can follow as well. I will go into them in detail in our next sessions as well. Continuous feedback and iteration. You need to have constant feedback through data and customer interactions to continuously iterate and improve. So as I said, this is not a linear process, UX designing is. So you have to go back and forth and get your users' feedback and also your stakeholders' feedback in order to do a good final design. So in order to get users input, you have to involve with them even from the beginning of your design. Let's say when you are starting your user research, you have to involve with the actual users that you think that will use your system in the future. And also you have to, when we get their input and do our wireframes, we have to present it to them. Otherwise, we will design something they don't like. So we will present it to them and again get their feedback and fine tune our wireframes. And finally, after few iterations, we will fine tune our wireframe and we have streamlined wireframes that matches all those user requirements. And then only we are starting with the designing. Even though we start with the designing, first we have to do low fidelity prototype where we only do the certain elements. For example, we don't put all the colors we are choosing. We don't go into detail, like we don't put actual icons or anything, just the placements and the blueprint of the design. And finally, and then again we have to go to our users and stakeholders and get their feedback on that particular design. Because if you are, let's say you do the wireframe, you don't even do the wireframe properly and start with the final design. So users don't like it. So you have to again do the design, and it will consume so much time and so much money as well. So it is a good practice to follow all these steps and involve with your users and get their feedback in each and every step of your design process. All right, so that is UX strategy, and these are parts of user research as well. User research is used to understand the user's needs, behaviors, experiences, and motivations through various qualitative and quantitative methods to inform the process of solving the user's problems. So user research is used to understand users' need. So when you are designing an application for ride sharing, you have to understand users' need. They need to book a taxi really fast without any issue. And behaviors. What are their behaviors? When they need this taxi, what are they doing? Are they going to work? Are they going somewhere else? Or their behavior patterns. So you have to understand those as well. Experience. What are the experience uh, of them using this particular use cases or applications? What are their motivations? Are they going to work in a taxi every day, or are they taking their own car, or are they taking public transport? Are they only taking taxis in rainy days? So those things also you have to ask them and make a note in your user research as well. Qualitative research. So you can ask them questions such as open-ending questions or yes and no questions, such as are you happy with this particular application? Are you happy with Pick Me? Are you getting a response faster? So how is your riding experience? How are the drivers? Are they nice or not? So you can ask them qualitative questions. So they will give them qualitative answers such as good or things in Likert scale, not like, somewhat like, okay, satisfied, or highly satisfied. So you can align them in that kind of a scale when you are considering. So those are qualitative. And quantitative skills is something like this, like how many seconds are you waiting for someone to pick your request in ride sharing app. So they will give you this many seconds, this many minutes, sometimes 30 minutes and so on. So you can add that in a table in your user research as well. So quantitative methods to inform the process of solving for users' problems. So by considering all these, by considering qualitative and quantitative methods, you can find a fine line between what is the minimum time, what is the maximum time that users can stay without getting a acceptance from the rider. So it is actually different, like it is depending on user requirement. Let's say the person wants to go to the hospital or doctor's appointment faster, so they want it to be really fast. So if you can address all this, it will be a really good product. Even though you can't address them, you have to research and understand these are the expectations of our users. So in UX research, it helps to figure out problems users have with the interface. So if let's say this is already existing app and you have to revamp the user experience of the users, or we are talking about some competitors already existing application. So we have to figure out problems users have with the interface. So that is a UI designer's task, interface problem solving. Find out users' problems and needs. So that is UX engineer or UX designer has to find out problems and needs. So if it is existing app, you can uh, refer to screen recordings. And if it is not an existing app, you are trying to launch it quickly for the first time, you have to interview users and understand their problems and what they expect from this kind of application. Create valuable and useful design. Okay, then we have to create valuable and useful designs based on those research output, like inputs from users. Identify early adopters. So early adopters are really important. So for an example, let's say when we are launching a product, let's say a new iPhone launch. So early adopters are the people who go to Apple iStore during the night and wait in the queue till the product is launched and get it first. So those are kind of like whistleblowers of the application. If the product is really good, they will tell other people, or that this new product is really good, you should buy it. So that is really important. Even though if you are marketing it really well and try to build awareness among people, uh, word of mouth is really important, because if someone you trust, one of your friend tell you that this product is really good, you should try it, you will definitely buy it. When comparing to, if you see the advertisement, you don't care much, but if your friends say so, you will go and buy it. So we have to consider about early adopters as well. Analyze the market to check your product fits the niche. So you have to analyze the market. So an analyzation can be done based on the market behavior and how many competitors are there, and what are the market trends, and is it a good market, is it a good time to launch our applications. So you have to consider, you will get an input about those when you do the user research, UX research. Learn about competitors' products. So in order to do a good UX research, you have to learn about competitors' products as well. As I mentioned, you have to learn about their users and what are the issues they are facing, and what are the things they like, what are their users like about those particular application, and take all the good things to your applications by and eliminate the things that users don't like. Validate your business ideas and hypotheses. So even if you're launching a new application, you have to come into some hypothesis. So this user will behave this particular way, and this user will like this feature, and these users will won't like. So you have to make those hypotheses and then when you're doing user research and talking to actual users, you get to know are your hypotheses are correct or not. So you can uh, create your plan. You can move forward with user input and complete your UX research that way. Measure the return on investment for your UX design. So let's say you are again designing a ride sharing app, and then you have a budget of let's say $20,000, and you are for the first launch we call minimum viable product, where we have minimum features of the product and we take it to the market just to validate our idea, just to validate just to see are people following our design, do people download our product, do they like it, are they giving us good reviews. So if you are wasting whole $20,000 to do that, it won't be a good product. So what you can do is you can uh, ship the product with minimum features, like minimum features that users expect there to be. So if you are trying to add more and more features in your initial launch, it won't. So let's say people rejecting it, and you wasted $20,000. So if you can spend bare minimum on your product, let's say $1,000 minimum, and then launch the product and see is there any capability that we can move forward. Are users like it? Do users like it? So in that case, you can improve your design and launch a new design as a new process. So in your beta, so in the software we have, when we are launching an application with a bare minimum, we call it beta version. And even before that, there's an alpha version as well, but let's call beta version. So in the beta version, we launch the application and get to know that if users like it or not. So if users like it, if we have more users, more downloads in daily basis, more returning users, so our investors will give us more money. to fine tune our application and add more features and everything. So you have to make sure you spend less money and less effort and time and go to the market and then uh, pivot or do the changes according to the user's needs. So you have to make sure that you get a good return on investment as well. Ensure proper navigation and trouble-free user experience. So in your application, you have to give users a proper navigation where they can navigate through your system and go to home page, go to account and find their bookings and their history and add a card or select a payment option, or you have to fine tune the user flow for those areas as well. And trouble-free user experience. So if you can't satisfy your user by providing them interactions or animations or anything, at least try to have a bare minimum and at least try to make sure you give them what they expect. So if they expect your application to behave in certain way, you have to at least as a minimum you have to give them that particular experience. Otherwise they will get disappointed or they will leave you a bad review and uninstall the application as well. All right. Is there anything you want to ask up until now? You can ask any questions. All right. Okay, we talked about UX strategy, user research, and then here information architecture. Information architecture is like a blueprint, a visual representation of the product's infrastructure, features, and hierarchy. The level of detail is up to the designer. So, information architect may also include navigation, application, functions and behaviors, content and flows. There is no set of limit to the size or shape of IA. Okay, as I mentioned, it is information architecture is like a blueprint of the visual design, not actually the project, but the visual design of the visual representation of your data in the screen. Products, infrastructure, features, and hierarchy. So let's say mobile application. So what are the placement for the search bar? What is the placement for navigation icons? What is the placement for account icon? So those things are there in the information architecture. Features, final features we are going to ship in particular product launch. Those are the things in the information architecture. The level of details is up to designer. So designer can decide based on the time given and the budget, what are the details that they can put in the information architecture documentation or the file they are creating. And information architecture may also include navigation. So we can include navigation like home screen, account, history, or more screen, account, settings screen, and so on. You can decide. Application functions. So functions can be, let's say, mobile banking application, sending money, paying a phone bill, or check your account balance. So those functions should be there, and behaviors. So accompanying behaviors for those functions. And content. What are the content that we are displaying? What is the welcome message we are showing them? What is the details like under the account number? What are the details we are going to show them? Are we giving them description text? Or those are the things that we have to consider. And flows. And what are the user flows? What are the user flows for different users? One person have to pay a bill. One person have to send money. One person is trying to check his account balance. One person is trying to make a fixed deposit. Another person is trying to convert US dollars to LKR. So those options you have to create different personas and create user flows for different users and fine-tune them as well. There is no set of limit to size or shape of IA. So as a standard, there's no limit or size, but it is actually depending on the budget you're getting and also the time frame you have and the number of members who are involving in the information architecture process. This is a hierarchy, the information architecture diagram for a game actually. So starting off here, we have the onboarding process. So if you see the legend, you can see all the actions and pop up and screen what all the shapes are representing. So after onboarding, we are giving them options to register with Facebook, Google, or SMS. So if they are taking Facebook, we are creating the profile directly, even from Google. And if they are registering with SMS, we are sending them a verification code and come to create a profile step. And if it fails, we are taking them back to onboarding. So they have to create it again. So after creating a profile, we require them to have location access on. So I think you already have seen that more ride-sharing apps such as BigMe or Uber, when you are loading the application, it won't load unless you switch on your location. So you have to switch on your location. So location access should be there. Otherwise, if you decline it, it will go to the starting point. So if location access is on, we are showing them the home screen, which consists of the map. So in the home screen, we have all these options. We have new avatar, treasure, nearby players, messages, create activity, notifications, menu. The main path is menu. Reset, north, up, avatar, search, spots. So all these things are there. And if I take the main menu, under the menu, we have my friends, favorites, collections, settings, activity, and logout. So when the designer have this kind of a diagram, when let's say he's starting from onboarding, so he know that where he is and what is the step that he need to follow next. He have designed this path next and all these paths. So we have to create, this is one general information architecture diagram. And when we create user flows for different users, the designer will be able to see those as well, and they get those inputs and keep them in their mind when they do the design. Okay, the UX is everywhere and the bad UX is everywhere as well. As we discussed in our previous slide, most of us have a good user experience and bad user experiences as well. So it don't have to be a digital product. So if you are visiting a hospital, if you are taking a bus, if you are taking a train, if there's a bad user experience, so if you can't sit properly, you feel tired when sitting for longer hours. So it might be because of a bad user experience. So the seat designer or someone don't consider about the users who are using, particularly in buses in Sri Lanka. You can't sit for long hours. So that is another bad user experience, but in a physical world. So here, for an example, this bicycle path, the bicycle riders can't access to the other side of the road. So that is a bad user experience. They just did the bicycle path, but it is no use actually. So this is a cup. It is really looking cute and nice, but in the user experience, you can't do the task it is designed for. You can't drink water. It is good for an ornament, but it don't do the job. Even here, it is not a good user experience. We can see so many of these in our country as well. I think most of us experience this. The TV remote has many buttons we don't even use. So these are the only things that we require to change channels or do the task and watch TV or anything. So even here, there's a UX rule. The more options you give, the more confused the users get. So if you're giving so many options for the users, even in your UI designing, you have to make sure that you only give the basic, the only required features for users, because otherwise they won't choose what they like. They will get disappointed and they won't choose. And even here, this is the order of the lift is not properly ordered. So users have used the lifts before, they know how it behaves. They know that first floor should go to number one, and this numbering is really wrong. So you have to make sure that won't happen as well. And even here, the ATM, the use case is to withdraw some money. They are not taking users into their consideration when installing the ATM machine up there. And even here, people who take in the wheelchair can't go over this crib. So they, even though it is marked as that, they won't be able to do the task. Okay. These are some UX job roles. UX designer. UX designer, as I mentioned, is someone who is responsible for do the UX research. They are considering about fields of the users rather than look of the system. So UX designers' tasks are doing a user research and also competitor analysis. If you are really good with people, like if you are doing if you have good interpersonal skills, you should become a UX researcher. And if you are good in UX research, you can become actually a researcher. And even for a UX designer, there is some part of a research involved, but most of the time, the designer is the one who think what users' behavior and how we can improve and how we can get to the market with a product that users like. UI designer is more into visual design. So visual designer is someone who is thinking about the colors, the typography, what are the screen placements, and so on. What is the contrast ratio? Those are the things that he need to consider. But if you like both of these, if you like the user experience, the both look and feel of your system, if you want to be a unicorn, you can be a UI and UX designer. And then we have UX manager. We are someone in the team who manage all the UX work, and under his under him there can be some UX designers and designers as well. So his duty is to make sure that everyone is follow the same guidelines and make sure everyone are on the same page and understanding the users uh, and similar tasks. UX researcher I mentioned earlier. UX writer is also important when you designing a website or a mobile application. You have to write good content. So as I mentioned earlier, the content you put on your design is also really important. You have to put a meaningful content. You have to avoid jargons. You have to put text that everyone can understand, even for people who don't understand tech. UX architect is the one who designed the UX strategy and also who has good understanding about information architecture and data, and more into coding as well. And the product designer is also similar to UX designer, but more into actually this is a term that they use in US. So even in Sri Lanka or Asia, we are calling UX designer, UI designer, but when we go to US or some European countries, they use product, because they are not only doing digital products like we do, they are doing physical products as well. So the product designer is someone similar to UX designer, but he can do the both digital and physical product as well. Product manager is when you have experience as a product designer, like 5 to 10 years experience, and if you have good understanding about information architecture, and if you can do communicate with people really well, interact with people, if you can be a good collaborator, if you can manage, if you have good management skills, you can be a product manager. Product owner is something different. So let's say I'm developing a product, I'm designing a product for, uh, let's say, again, banking application. The product owner can be someone, he is behaving like actual user, but he know all the user expectations. He interview with users, he study users really well. He know all the expectations and what are the features that users expecting, and what are the things that we should avoid, what are the things that we consider most, like we have to get urgent attention and so on. So that is the product owner. Okay, UI and UX engineer, as I mentioned earlier, when you starting your career, you can be a intern, and then you can be associate UI or UX designer, and with some experience, with when working with a team, you learn information architecture, have some coding background as well, and then if you can manage people and interact with them really well, you can be a UI and UX engineer with more experience. So if you have any questions, you can ask. If you have any questions regarding your career, you can ask as well. Send a message on group chat. Okay, these are some essential UI and UX technical skills and how we improve. All right. So in order to be a good UI and UX designer, you have to improve, like make yourself improve in some skills that require design. So number one is graphic design, vector and raster. So, okay, Rifad is asking, if we are a fresher, how will we start in this field? So if you are a fresher and if you don't have any UI and UX design experience, one thing you can do is you can apply for an internship and you can get an experience. You can work with experienced people. You can ask questions from your co-designers and learn from them. And that is a good thing to do. But with the uh, online, like if you have platforms such as Upwork, Fiverr, or anything, where you can find customers, where you can find clients. So if you have a good portfolio, if you have good projects under your belt, you can apply for certain projects and do. So as a starter, you can do for very less budget when comparing to the people with much experience, because you are using this as an opportunity to learn something new and put it in your portfolio to get future projects. So it is always good to start as a intern and learn from experienced people. And in the meantime, you can learn from internet nowadays, and you can follow YouTube videos and take online courses and certificates, and then apply for a job online, such as in platforms such as Upwork. Upwork is a really good platform because you can get more jobs, more potential clients when comparing to other platforms as well. And even Fiverr is a good point to start off as a fresher. Is that clear, Rifat? Okay, cool. Graphic design and UI designing. UI designing, as I mentioned earlier, it is the look of the interface. You can select the colors based on the user requirement. You can select the typography. Visual representation of your screen is UI designing. So you have to improve on that as well. In order to improve in designing, what you have to do is you have to follow the designs, and the more you design, more experience you will get. So just don't see other people's design. Try to do your own by getting inspiration and motivation from those designs as well. And then we have motion graphics, 2D animations. So if you want to become an interaction designer, or if you want to improve your skills in animation, you can become a motion graphic designer, 2D animation designer. There are tools such as even in Figma, you can design some interaction designs, 2D animations. But if you want to learn it, like you can download software such as Blender or any other 2D animation software, and you can do the designs for motion graphic, video and audio editing. So even though you are not doing it in UI and UX, it is a good practice, good experience to have in video or audio editing. There are sometimes the clients will ask you for a screen recordings or a video representation for the product, a demo. So in that case, you have to have a good understanding about how to edit a video, especially the Premiere Pro and OS native applications such as Final Cut Pro and so on. So if you have experience in those or even audio editing, it is a good competitive advantage when comparing to someone who don't have that particular experience. And UX skills. UX skills such as user research, creating wireframes, creating low fidelity prototypes, creating personas, understanding users, empathizing with them. So those are the skills comes under UX skills. Development skills. As I mentioned earlier, most of the companies hire people, hire UX designers who can code as well. So they know what the coders can do and can't do. Because if the designer designs something that is really hard to implement as a front-end developer or a back-end developer, it will be an iterative process. The developer will tell that I can't implement this particular design. So if you have a good understanding about development as well, what can developers do? What are the limits? It is a good advantage for you as well. So I invite you to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript at least, basic understanding. But if you really want to get a competitive advantage, learn a framework such as React or Angular or Vue.js, and even frameworks such as Tailwind will help. And soft skills, presentation skills, interpersonal skills, how we can interact with people are also important, because when you are doing a design, if you can't go by your design, for an example, let's say you do a design and you select a particular color and you put a button in particular place, your product owner or a client will ask, why did you select this particular color? If you can't rationalize it, if you can't give a reason for that, give a valid reason for that, they won't argue. So you have to have a good understanding, and you always have to rationalize your design and tell them, why did you choose this particular color and not that color, this font face and not that. So you have to have good soft skills as well. In addition to that, if you are working with a team, you have to have workplace skills as well. These are some workplace skills. Number one is collaboration. So most of the time you have to work with a team. The team can consist of co-designers, co-developers, product owner, even client. So you have to collaborate with them in daily basis as well. So collaborative tools we are using in designing in office setting, we use Slack, and also there are some project management tools such as Trello, Atlassian, and also Basecamp, and also in GitHub they have projects as well. So you have to get familiar with those as well to use project management tools and time tracking and so on. Communication and presentation. So even if you are a good designer, and if you do a task really well, if you're launching products that people like, if you're not a good communicator, if you're not communicating with your team members, if you're not communicating with your clients, you are not there to answer the questions when they arise, it is not a good practice. Like you will get negative feedback, and in your career advancement, it is a really good if you have a good communication skills. If you communicate regularly, with your core team members. And the presentation skills. If you can present, if you can give a rationale, if you can present your ideas really well, if you can like good at storytelling, it is really good advantage when comparing to the person who don't have that much of a skills. Because even from the UI and UX, we are trying to tell a story. Even from a website, we are trying to tell a story. So if you can give a better story, if you can give a good story to your users, they will buy it. Otherwise, your product won't be that much of a success. Prioritization and time management. So this is also really important. Let's say you working in a software firm and you have multiple projects running in a same time. So if you can't prioritize your tasks, if you can't manage your time accordingly, it will be an issue, because you will get so much of work, you won't be able to go to your home and enjoy the time with your family. You won't be able to enjoy your holidays or weekends. You have to work, and every day you have to work. So it is really good practice to manage your time as well, and always leave your office in time and go to your home. So I followed this practice for like 10 years. It is really good. If you stay for one day let's say if your off time is 5, if you stay one day for still 6 or 7, the management will expect you to stay another day, and you will get used to it. So as a good practice, try to leave soon as your time is off and enjoy the time with your family, and also do not work on your weekends as well. So that will ease your pressure, and also uh, as you move on as a designer, it will give you free mind. So as a designer, you have to think. So if you have so much of work, so much of work stress, and things, you won't be able to think and do proper designs. Think like a UX designer. So there are a few books I want to introduce after this slide. UX is everywhere. Identify good and bad UX. So in daily basis, even if you go to office, even if you drive a car, even if you take public transport, you experience the user experience is everywhere. So let's say you drive a car, the design of the car, the steering wheel, the placement of the brake, the gear, and the handrest and everything, the UX designer in the industry, the car industry, has designed it for you. So if it is a bad user experience, you won't be able to ride a comfortable ride. So you have to think as a UX designer in every where you go, and identify good and bad user experiences, and think how we can improve particular user experience, what we can do to make the lives better of other users as well, and get a solution for that. Okay. Do you have any questions up until now? All right. So when you start your UX design career, I think most of you don't have any designs done already. It's okay. So these are some portfolios, online portfolios, free to use portfolios we can follow. The one is Dribble. So I will open that site and show you. And another one is Behance. So the most of the designers have their accounts here in the Dribble. So uh, if you open Dribble, it asks you to sign up, and you can put your designs here. So these are some designs that users put. Let's search for a so these are some holiday applications. user experience. So let's open one. Let's take this one. So this is one design the users did and they have put it in their portfolio. So when you try to get a job, the first thing the recruiter or hiring manager asks is to send them your portfolio, because we are in a creative field. So they will ask to send you a portfolio. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So if you have a good sound portfolio in one of these platforms, Dribble or Behance, it will really helpful to pass that step of your design interview. So if you have a good portfolio, if they like your portfolio and designs, they will ask you, they will send you a request to participate in a design interview. Like they will give you a design task, and if you do the design task really well, they will ask you a few questions, and then they will hire you in the end. So number one is have a good portfolio. So apart from these two applications, you can create your own portfolio as well. So there are some, if you are good with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can create your own portfolio website. There are enough templates in a website, like you can buy, or even if you go to GitHub, if you search for template UX designer template portfolio, it will give you some really good designs that other people already done. So actually, if you don't have that experience, it is a good practice to use these kind of platforms to showcase your designs for other users and for the recruiters. Behance and Dribble. And Flickr is actually for photographers. We are not using it widely these days. If you into photography or any other creative field, you can use Flickr. So any questions? Okay, let's ask one by one. Achinta, do you have any questions?
Up until now, I'm okay.
Okay, okay, cool. Veeravardhana, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, cool. Rifad, how about you?
I am good, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Nadika, how about you? Okay, cool. And Nadisha?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Natanya? Okay, all right. So I'm going to wrap up the session for today. So the next week we are going to talk about, let's open this. Okay, next week we are going to talk about what is UX process and methods, how to apply the UX design process practically, what is empathy and why is it so important in design thinking, user interviews and competitor analysis, creating personas and user flows. So before you go, I will share the link for this. Let's delete all this. This is the board we are using in our course. So you will do your designs here in a collaborative board. So I will share it with you as a Zoom message. Join that. I will create boards for everyone right now. Give me 1 second. Desktop. We have Achinta. Then we have then we have Rifat. Then we have Nadia. Okay, let's see. These are the boards. So from next week, I will do Figma. We will do Figma designs. So you can do your designs here as well. So if you already done any designs, you can paste them here in the same board as well and follow, put your name as the frame. So I can look and give you feedback. If you have any questions, you can ask now, or you can send a message on WhatsApp chat as well later. So let's meet next week. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you.